And if I could give you some tough love, I would say this. Because you're still here, because you're still surviving, because you're still kicking, because you haven't done the unthinkable, it's not that bad.
Keep your head up. I also would like to let you know that you are not alone. Whatever you're going through is temporary. It won't last forever.
Before we dive into today's episode, I would like to take a moment to thank our sponsor, the Hurt Factory Boxing and Fitness, owned by one of my past guests, Scott Cujo Sigmund, a talented boxer, trainer, and promoter. The Hurt Factory is a premier boxing gym and health institution located at 17804 Forest Road, Unit C, Forest, Virginia, zip code 24551. This fantastic facility offers top-notch boxing training and fitness programs for individuals of all levels, from beginner to expert athletes. At the Hurt Factory, expert trainers provide personalized workouts and classes to help you reach your fitness goals and improve your boxing skills. Whether you're looking to get in shape, build strength, or enhance your boxing technique, the Hurt Factory is the place for you. Join us today and experience the ultimate workout in a supportive and motivating environment. For more information, you can call them at 434-238-5809 or visit them on Facebook at the Hurt Factory Boxing and Fitness. Now let's get back to the episode. Hey, what's up, everyone? It's your boy TeflonJohn coming to you courtesy of the I Am TeflonJohn brand. And today, we have a very special show. We have two of my close friends here today, and we're here to talk about marriage and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'm not going to spoil it too much. I'm going to let them tell you who they are.
Hello, I am Kheayla Hunt of Starting Fresh Ministries.
And I am Corry Hunt of Starting Fresh Ministries.
Yeah, so I like that name, Starting Fresh. So if you can tell me, like, what exactly is that?
So the way it came about was, I believe it was pre-pandemic or it was during the pandemic. The Lord gave me the idea or the vision for Kheayla to just go on every morning and kind of inspire people. So it went from her going on to both of us going on, and we did it every morning at 6 a.m. and just trying to encourage the people, give them that boost. And so it has come now, I guess you could say full circle to now a ministry. And so now we have a ministry, Starting Fresh Ministries.
Okay. So Kheayla, tell me how was it when he gave you that idea? Were you like wanting to go in front of the camera and be out, or?
Absolutely not. I did not. I'm more of a behind the scenes type person. So when he first introduced that vision, I was a little hesitant. However, when he said God gave him that vision, I felt as though that was something I couldn't run from.
Yeah. So you trusted him.
I trusted him.
Gotcha. Okay. So tonight, so everyone knows, we're going to talk about marriage, but we're going to get to know my two friends here so you guys can know them before we get into the subject matter. So that happened during the pandemic where no one could really go in church. So how did you benefit from that, and what challenge did you have starting that?
So the challenge was obviously, doing it at 6 a.m. That was the challenge, getting up.
Every morning.
Doing that. And I think the benefit was just being able to impact people. People, like I said, need that push. They need that motivation. And we started off Monday, just because, everything happens over the weekend. And so Monday we can give them that boost to start the week. And then we kind of branched off from just that one day to doing it every morning at 6 a.m.
Gotcha. Okay. So Kheayla, tell me about how Corry helped push you. Like, if you weren't the one to be in front of the camera, so what, outside of trusting in the vision, like what was he doing to kind of coach you along? Because I know when I first started, I didn't like what I was seeing in front of the camera. I didn't like the way I sound, didn't like the way I looked. So I was all in that versus focusing on the content.
So everything that you just said, I felt that way. Did not like how I sounded. I think that was the biggest thing. I kind of, in the very beginning, just let him take the driver's seat until I felt more comfortable. So I would insert every once in a while, and then it just became a flow. I just, started to feel more comfortable. So it made me be more vocal.
More vocal.
hmm
So how did you feel watching that growth in her, going from I'm unsure to I'm just hitting the record button and getting it.
Yeah, I mean, it was something to see, just starting from, how it originally started. Like she said, she'd kind of fall back. And then I noticed like over time, she was more vocal. And then I saw like some episodes where she took the
Going
driver's
in.
seat. Yeah. So like it was pretty amazing to see. And yeah.
That's cool. I mean, because
Yeah.
I think seeing the husband and wife dynamic from a vision, right? Because you see a lot of people that fight their helpmate. You know what I mean?
hmm
And I think seeing that you didn't have the pride, you wanted her to be in the forefront, and then when you wanted to be involved, she didn't have any problem. So could you explain, like, talk about that dynamic on how you guys navigated through that?
I think we just jailed over
Just
over a
jail.
period of time. Like no, like you said, no one really had that struggle of wanting to be the person out front per se. Because like the thing
hmm
is, I knew the Lord gave me that vision initially for her, to be the face. So like it wasn't a struggle like a ego trip or anything
Yeah.
like that. So over a period of time, we just kind of jailed and we had that flow. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So now that we got, I guess, the dynamic, because I like that. I'm believing that for my wife, for my camera. You get in front of you. But tell me a little bit about your background journeys and how that led to where we are to today as far as your relationship.
You can go first.
Okay. Background as far as like, so I'll just say I did not grow up in church.
hmm
Um, so this journey has been a wild ride, but it has been a very blessed ride. I feel like my relationship with Christ, as it has strengthened over the years, um, has allowed the ministry piece to flow,
Got you. Okay.
if that
But
makes sense.
yeah, 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 it does. So what about you, Corey? How did we go from where you were to great relationship with God, great relationship with your wife?
Yeah, I would say so I did grow up in church. I wasn't always on the path, like some of us get off the path.
hmm
But I think once I became serious about my relationship with God, I think that's when things like started changing. Because it's one thing to profess to be a disciple of Christ or a
hmm
Christian, of however you want to put it, but it's another thing to like walk the walk. And I decided that I wanted to walk the walk. So with that, as far as the marriage piece is concerned, I know there are certain components that come along with that
hmm
that I can't just say. I have to actually do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So what were your first impressions of each other when you first met, right? And how did that connection evolve over time?
First impressions. So I will say that I was going through a divorce when we first met.
hmm
So I didn't really feel any type of way. I vowed that I would never, ever get into a serious relationship ever again. And he was going through a divorce at the same time. So we kind of bonded through our pain and
hmm
became friends.
Okay. What about you, Corey? What was that first impression?
yeah, I would say the same thing. Like we were both going through that difficult time with
hmm
previous relationships, and that again that experience gave us that friendship bond. And I really would say to someone that your marriage needs to be founded on friendship. And I think that's what we had. We had that friendship bond. And I think that's what keeps us solid.
So how important is that, Kheayla, and both of you guys to answer? But how important is that dynamic of friendship to be the center? 'Cause I
It,
think some people nowadays they get the marriage title, but
hmm
you can
mhm.
tell like the foundation isn't friendship.
I think that it is super important, and I think it And when I say it comes easy, hear what I'm saying. It comes easy because that was the foundation of how it started out.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
So I don't really know anything other than the friendship
Mm-hmm.
piece,
Okay.
if that makes
It makes sense. It makes sense.
And what was the question one more time?
Yeah. So
Sorry.
why is friendship
Okay.
very important? To be the dynamic.
I feel like because the friendship is kind of the foundation or the building block of a relationship. Because
Mhm.
if you, like you said, jump into a marriage, or some people just like the idea of it and they just want the big wedding, they just want all these things. But
Yeah.
if you're not friends first, if you don't build that friendship bond, then you really don't have anything that's solid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah.
Okay. So define a healthy marriage for me, and what are some elements that make up one healthy marriage?
Healthy marriage, always putting God first, having God be the center of that, uh, being selfless, being forgiving, extending grace.
Okay.
I would say a healthy marriage, obviously, yes, to keep God first, but also to keep your partner first.
Mm-hmm.
So we should always think about our partner first when, making decision or just doing things, like always
Mm-hmm.
thinking about the other partner, because it has to be about them. And both parties have to have that mindset to make
Yeah.
the marriage, a good, solid marriage. So I can't be selfish
Mm-hmm.
and think I'm gonna have a good marriage. She can't be selfish, thinks that she's gonna have a good marriage. It can't be about self. If I'm always thinking about her, if she's always thinking about me,
Yeah.
putting each other first, then that gives you a solid marriage, and from my perspective.
Yeah. I seen an Instagram clip, and the guy was talking, and he was saying that if both people are like competing with themselves to please the other person, and to me that makes sense.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, because that establishes a dynamic of selflessness,
Mm-hmm.
but it also establishes a dynamic of, working to always see what the other, because you can't please a person if you don't know what they want.
correct.
So
Right.
there's some type of dialogue on getting to know them, what's your favorite color, what's your favorite food type
Mhm.
of
Right.
deal. So what do you think? I think nowadays, 2024, I think marriage is almost a joke to some people,
Mm-hmm.
because it's almost like they go for, like you said, the big wedding, the big ceremony, DJ at the reception, but they're not in it for the long haul, right? So, what advice could you give to people that genuinely want to be married, but they're discouraged by what they see? Like some people are just afraid. They'll date for 20, 30 years. They're just afraid to get married.
I'll just say marriage can be a beautiful thing. And just like anything, you have to water it in order for it to grow. Um, Another thing that I wanted to bring up about marriage, back to God and putting God first. I always try to incorporate God as it pertains to handling my husband. So, are my actions or are my words pleasing to God when I'm
Hmm.
dealing with my husband?
Okay. Okay. So you gonna say something,
Well, I
Corey?
would say to the person who is discouraged by what they see, every marriage and every relationship is different. So what you see in those individuals, that's not the that's not the that's not it for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
What you see in
Yeah.
those individuals, that's just what's it for them.
Yeah.
But for every relationship, it's different. So it's what you make of it, it's
Hmm.
what you put into it.
Mm-hmm.
It takes work.
Yep.
It's not just something that will just magically happen. It takes
Mm-hmm.
work. You have to work on yourself. You have to work to be a better wife, be a better husband. You have to work at it. It's not gonna just happen.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say marriage is easy, but people will like carry you away
Hmm.
because they'll have that bad experience, and then they'll just sowing those seeds of discord to everyone else,
Hmm.
trying to tell them about their bad experience. It's almost like going to a restaurant. You have a bad experience with one
Hmm.
waiter. Now
Hmm.
all restaurants are based
Hmm.
upon this one waiter.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So let's talk about challenges in the marriage, right? So what is one of the biggest challenges that you guys face in the marriage, and how did you overcome that?
I think one of my biggest challenges, um, because we're we're individuals. We're not the same. We think differently.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes when your spouse has a different view or let me just run it back. Expectation. So having what is the word I'm trying?
Unhealthy expectation.
That's not the word I was looking for.
Unrealistic.
Unrealistic expectations. So that was one of my biggest challenges in the beginning. Just expecting him to know how I was feeling, or
Gotcha.
yeah.
And I would say the same because you I guess naturally you would think that the other
Somebody
person
know.
would know,
Yeah.
but you don't know unless you get to know the person, unless you study. You got to study your mate. Oh, she doesn't like that, or she doesn't like when I do this, or what. You got to study your mate. So when you study them, then you know. So I think the challenge is just thinking that they already know, but that's unrealistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unrealistic, and it's not fair.
So how do you navigate through that? Like once you realize, whatever was, his thumb screw or her thumb screw, how do you navigate to say, okay, I need to work on this, or we need to work on communicating? How does that work for you all?
Well, you just said it. Communication.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Just better, healthy communication.
Okay. So with people that are prideful, what is your advice on how to establish communication in a marriage? Not just talking about something, but actually communicating.
Realizing that you need it, and it's one of the foundational pieces to a marriage. Realizing that you need it, because without it, you really don't have any relationship. Be it friendship, be it marriage, be it your relationship with Christ. There has to be a strong level of communication. So without that, you don't have it. So I think realizing that you have to have it is what will help.
Gotcha. Okay. So with the communication breakdowns, right? Have there been times where communication has broken down and you all had to rebuild trust? And what did that look like?
Want to address it?
You go ahead.
So I'll just be honest with you, and I hope I'm not going too far. Hopefully this can help somebody. There was a time where we had a rough patch. I'll just put it that way. We had a rough patch, and it was a serious patch because ladies out there, you know that when you're done, you're done, and I think men know that as well. But I think with being able to understand what has happened, being able to see myself in what has happened, with being able to do that, I can move forward because I know my part. I hope I answered that question right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Say the question again. I just want to make sure I'm good.
So we're just talking about, like, have you guys ever had a communication breakdown?
Yes.
Where trust was lost, you had to and what did you do to rebuild that?
Gotcha. Yeah. And so for me, and I'm not trying to be deep, but for me, what I had to do is I first had to see myself in it. Secondly, I had to pray for her heart. Because again, when a woman's done, she's done. So I had to pray for her heart, and I had to pray that God would show me my wrong in that, and I had to deal with it. Deal with it, and just know that it's going to take time.
Yeah.
It's going to take time to rebuild. Anything that has to be rebuilt, it takes time.
Yeah.
Rome wasn't built in a day, so anything that needs to be rebuilt, it takes time, and you have to know that, and you have to trust that process.
Yeah. Trust is what do they say? Trust is earned and dropped, lost in buckets. And so that's a hard thing to really come by in a marriage. And it could be trust with finances, trust with kids, trust with different aspects. You can have a lot of trust in one area, little trust in a different area. So Kheayla, could you walk through from your perspective, from a woman's perspective, how was that working with patience while he was going through that process? Was it easy, or was it?
It was. He's laughing. It was rough. It was rough. But during that rough time, I had to sit down and look at myself as well. I had some aha moments about myself and about my personality, because at the end of the day, it's a marriage, and it takes two to either reel things in, or it takes two for things to go left. And I think at one point I was putting a lot on him. So when I finally started to take a look at myself, the patience started trickling in. It was a
Mm-hmm.
process. It took a while. It was rough.
Gotcha. So I think in any relationship, whether it be platonic, marriage, business relationship, I think the one thing that could kill is silence, right?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So
Mhm.
can we talk about how deadly silence can be, not only to a marriage, but any relationship and the effects that it could have?
Uh, Silence could put you like in an unknown place or uncomfortable place when I say that. So if I'm giving the silent treatment to her, it's like she doesn't really know how I feel. She doesn't know really where I stand. Are we good? Are we not good? So silence can be very deadly. It could put you um, in a place in a bad place.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that was broad enough, but
It is.
silence can put you in a bad place.
It is.
You always have to have that communication. And the thing is, a lot of people, always stress good communication. Even bad communication is good because you need some type of
Communication.
communication. Yeah, because if it's bad, this is what we need to address. That's what we need to address. This is what we need to learn from. But that silence can be a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because what I often think about is the assumption,
Mhm.
Thank
right?
you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Because, you're mad, whatever's going on, you're trying to figure it out. And then that plays into other situations that probably don't even exist. You know what I mean? So, Kheayla, could you go into that? Like the effects of the assumptions or how that can lead to assumptions.
Um, well, I was just gonna touch on something really quick as it
Mm-hmm.
pertains to the silent treatment. That used to be my go-to because I did not know how to communicate um, in a healthy way. Um, it used to be my go-to, but I realized I'm only hurting myself, and it's selfish. So let me shut down to upset him. Um, it's selfish, and when I say I was hurting myself because I'm not expressing why I'm upset and why I'm shutting down. Um,
And could you elaborate on that part? Because I think that's the first time I've heard people. And so, a lot of people will express, hey, like, I've been doing the silent treatment, that's wrong. But that's the first time I've heard someone say it's hurting myself. Because usually, it's hurting the other person. So could you elaborate on why you said that?
so I do first want to say that I do believe in, taking a time out sometimes, just to get your thoughts together, pray, um, and go about it how God would have you go about it.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you need a reset. But when I say that I came to the realization that I was hurting myself, what good is coming out of this? How how can I express to him how I'm feeling if I'm silent? Um, and not only was I hurting myself, I was just kind of putting a wedge in between our marriage because, you know, like you said, you go silent and you kind of drift apart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think
So,
I think you end up drifting apart emotionally first.
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because I think like having, when you have that spouse, that's like your go-to. Having a bad
Mhm.
day, having a
Mhm.
good day, and so when you cut that emotional attachment, just how you guys form that habit of talking to each other, now you're forming a habit of not talking.
And it
And you
becomes
get
easy.
used to it.
Yeah,
Yeah, you get
yeah.
used to it and it becomes easy.
So for someone that's watching this now, right, and that's
Mhm.
like, I'm feeling her. You know what I'm saying? I feel it, but they don't know how. Like, what are some small steps that they can take to try to break that habit?
The habit of silence.
Yeah, like the silent treatment itself. Because you can be quiet and not
Mhm.
really have anything to say or I'm mad, but when you're doing it for the purpose of the silent.
I think what helped me or what helped us had to put pride aside and admit that I was feeling a certain type of way or my feelings were hurt about something. So we have to set our pride aside
Mm-hmm.
and approach our spouse in a loving way. And baby steps. Hey, can I talk to you for a moment? You hurt my feelings earlier when you said X, Y, and Z. So sometimes it's as easy as saying that. We make it more difficult sometimes. So, advice I would give is putting your pride aside and just having a soft conversation with your spouse.
Okay.
And you have to be okay with the outcome.
Gotcha.
You just have to do your part. You can't really worry about how the other person reacts, but you just have to do your part.
Yeah, because I think sometimes you look at situations, you hear like, two business moguls split, these people split, this marriage split. When you look at it, I think the outcome of you telling somebody what's wrong
Hmm.
sometimes better than the outcome of you not saying anything.
Exactly.
So while you
Absolutely.
dread the response, better dread not saying anything because you can see the works of that. You can see the results of that, right?
Hmm.
So Corey, could you elaborate on that? Like why is it that important to find a way to because I like what Kheayla said. Like if you're emotional, yeah, you go ahead and be quiet for a little bit because you don't want to come off sharp. But why is it important to let out how you feel?
First, for self, you have to get it out for yourself. If you're holding it in, you're just going to explode. Secondly, for the relationship, you have to express how you feel. Otherwise, the individual will not know how you feel. And with that silence, again, it could be so deadly, that silence,
Mhm.
because your mind is wandering.
Yeah.
You just everything. That silence and not talking about it, not discussing things, it can be so detrimental in three different ways for the
Yeah.
relationship and for both individuals. So you have to just find a way to do it. I mean, just like I said earlier, just knowing that it's important, I have to do this, and finding a way to do it, because the silence is not the way. It's not
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah.
It just opens up so many doors.
It
It
does.
just, it just, it's not good.
Yeah. I think an idle mind is the devil's
That's it.
was it playground or play
Workshop,
toy?
playground. They
And
said several different ways. Yeah.
and you can imagine how people's I'm a creative person, as you can see. So you know how my mind's already thinking of ideas. So
Mhm.
imagine that in that realm.
Hmm.
And it's probably stuff that's not even going on. But once you
Unhealthy.
adopt that as gospel,
Mhm.
Hmm.
now you're looking at them sideways
Hmm.
and you're quiet. So you're not even addressing that thought. And this thought, then they're looking at you sideways. Now you've put stuff like this imaginary wedge,
Mhm.
Hmm.
like you said, in between y'all two.
Mhm. And the enemy likes to put those images in your head as well.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to put those images in your head. So with that silence, all it is giving him room to create a theatrical theme in your mind,
Yeah.
and that may not even be true.
Yeah.
It's over, it's done. Why
Mm-hmm.
don't you do this? Why don't you do X, Y, Z? But all I got to do is talk. All I
Hmm.
got to do is communicate,
Mm-hmm.
and it may not even be received right at that moment.
Yeah.
Just give it some time.
Yeah.
Just give it some time.
And the enemy's tricky because I've seen, and the reason I'm laughing because I'm just thinking about marriage in a whole, my marriage and other people's marriages. He will allow you to establish a bond with someone else. So you two got a problem. Kheayla
Mm.
is talking to me about the problem separately, you more than she's talking to you, and then you catch me and talk separately, and you'll be doing that instead of just
Talking to one another.
turning at
Mhm.
45 degree.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I think that is very important because I'm a firm believer in, from what I've seen, the enemy will attack marriages
Oh, absolutely.
because marriage is, how God displays his relationship to the church. So that's being attacked all the time.
Mhm.
And I think one step to build a healthy marriage is to one, just acknowledge that.
Mhm.
You don't acknowledge that. I
Right.
mean, you don't think there's a threat. And when you
Mhm.
don't think there's a threat, let your guard
That's
down.
it.
And then before you know it,
That's
you're
it.
getting tagged. So yeah, great answers. Great answers. So when we talk about like balancing roles, and I think this is like an interesting piece, but how do you manage to balance like your personal, like your responsibilities and your roles as partners in the marriage,
Um,
especially during challenging times?
During challenging times, I don't know. I don't think we've ever really had an issue as far as that's concerned.
Mm-hmm.
We still manage to keep the household going, and
Mm-hmm.
um I you
During challenging times, I mean,
That could be rough.
it's different for each marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would say for challenging times, some marriages they shut down.
Yeah.
There's
Completely.
they
Yeah.
complete. I'm not. I'm usually doing this. I'm not going to do this now because I'm mad. I think with us, we try to always keep that going, regardless of whatever we're doing or whatever
Your
we
responsibilities.
do, or responsibilities. We try to keep that going because I mean, like she said, you're only hurting yourself.
Yeah.
If I'm unhappy or we're having a difficult time, and I'm not doing what I normally do, I'm hurting the bigger picture.
Yeah.
So I would just say to someone, just don't do that. Just continue to do what you we're always doing or whatever your responsible role is. And that's different in each marriage, but you can't stop doing it because you're hurting the overall picture, yourself, your spouse, and the marriage.
But does communication come in when you can't be that person with that responsibility? So like y'all got your routine. Me and my wife, we have our routine. Life happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So whether it be someone lost a job, God forbid, someone gets sick, like in my case, brain tumor, boom. Now I'm laid down for 3 months. Now she has to literally put me in the shower. So explain the dynamics. And like I said, I seen on Instagram with this guy, him and his wife were talking. They're like, nah, we don't do that 50-50 mess, man. And I thought they were just talking about bills. But this was powerful. He was saying, because some days, emotionally, she had a bad day. She might come home with 20%. Now I got to adjust and pick up the other 80. I might come home, hey, I got 40% today. I need you to get that other 60. So talk about that, how to balance and kind of make up for what the other one doesn't have.
I think in a marriage, you have to be a chameleon. You got to be able to adapt. You got to be able to adjust.
Yeah.
Because every day is not going to be the same.
Yep.
You know, like in your situation, you had what you had. We had something in our marriage, you know, and you just got to be able to adapt. If you're not willing to adapt, and that's another thing that can build a strong marriage, being able to adapt. Because if I think it's just about this box and me not getting outside of this box, I'm not helping the situation.
Yeah.
Again, I'm hurting myself, I'm hurting the spouse, and I'm hurting the marriage. But you can't put yourself in a box. You got to be a chameleon. You got to be able to adapt to whatever is thrown your way.
Yeah. So what do you say to those folks that kind of ingrain woman's role is this in the marriage, a man's role is that?
It's not healthy. To me, that's separation.
Yeah.
That's separation because what will work for one marriage won't work for another marriage.
Exactly.
Now, if y'all do establish that and you're okay with that, so be it.
Yeah.
But just to have that mindset, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, nowadays you got certain wives that will cut the grass. Certain wives that will do, like, you know, the dirty work. It's all about what you're good at, and it's about what works for your relationship.
Yeah.
Like she's got the finance. I'm not messing with that. That's her thing. So it's like every relationship is different, but you got to do what works for your relationship. Don't do that you setting it, because again, like you said, the enemy wants to create that separation. So if you got your mind set on this is all I'm doing and nothing else. This is all for the other partner. This is all I'm gonna do and nothing else.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't survive that way. A marriage can't thrive that way.
Yeah, I've talked to people that have literally let the ship sail past them because they didn't want their wife making more money. So they agreed for her not to take the job. Seriously. I mean, I can't make it up.
I mean, like I said, to me, that's leaving room for the enemy, because then, okay, I don't want her to make more money, so I'm going to stop her from a great opportunity. What is that saying about me?
Yeah.
I don't want her to thrive.
Then y'all getting down praying in the night for financial blessing.
Exactly. Yeah. It don't work like
You
that.
know what I mean?
Make it make sense. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. So how do you guys handle because I think in 2024 you got YouTube podcasts, social media. I've even seen where I watched a couple where I think the expectation for men now, like these are 20-year-old men, and these girls wanted these dudes to have 6-figure jobs and like ready to take care of somebody. How do you think the unrealistic expectation is affecting relationships now? Kheayla, if you start with this.
How do I think the
Because it's heavy pressure.
It is, and there's no room for growth. It's just to me, it just becomes this robotic, monotonous job instead of relationship, instead of togetherness. So, and again, every marriage is different. You- I'm just saying the name Susie and Bob can't model their marriage after Kheayla and Corry. I think there are a lot of different moving parts. Some people have young children, some people have blended families. So again, this goes along with putting God first. Lots of prayer, lots of spiritual maturity. Listen, you have to be spiritually mature in order to be a good spouse. So a lot of things that we tackled in the beginning of our marriage, a lot of issues came from immaturity on my part, and it came from like just past behaviors, from my past relationship, and I tried to bring that into the marriage. And things of the past don't work with the new thing. So um, I personally don't agree with certain roles, and I think we have flourished because of that.
Yeah.
That's just my personal opinion.
Okay.
And I think too, those unrealistic expectations, like you were talking about, you're setting yourself up for failure.
You are.
Because what you want for somebody may not be what they want for themselves, and that may not be the best thing for the union, the marriage union. So you might be, you need to get this 6-figure job, but he may want to do something else, and you're forcing him to do that. So you're sort of like stripping him of what he wants to do. And again, it's messing you up, it's messing the other partner up, and it's messing the marriage up.
Yeah, and I think depending on the dynamics of the person, like what they want to hear. Some people value time with each other versus all this money and income, and they never see each other. I've seen that too, where you can look, you're like, oh man, I'm invited to so-and-so's house. They got a nice house, and you looking around, they got the, the cars in the driveway. But what you don't know is they unhappy.
Yes.
And it appears to be happy, but they not seeing each other. They barely talk. Silence has crept in, and now they are basically living to make a living versus living to be happy with each other. So it's kind of crazy because, like I said, I think nowadays with people's mind being watered with that, and these younger generations coming up thinking, like, for a guy, from our community, if a guy thinks he's got to have the money right now, think about like when we were younger, working fast food, you moving your way up, they're gonna go. Small majority of them are going to get that pressure on them to go get that money quick,
right?
And then it feeds that other cycle. You know what I mean? So let's switch it up a little bit. I think let's talk about like the long-term challenges. So what is one challenge that you've had? You know what? I'm glad this happened to us because we've learned, and this is like really improved our marriage going forward.
Go ahead.
And it might be different answers for.
You can go first.
Okay. The different challenges that we've faced, just from in the beginning, us first getting together, the marital issues. I have had some physical illnesses that we've had to endure. The loss of his best friend. So just challenges in general have brought us closer together, just learning how to navigate together. Things didn't feel good while they were happening, but it strengthened us.
So does one stand out in particular for you that gave you like a certain attribute?
Man, it's been so many different things.
Yeah.
Where do we start?
Yeah.
That's a whole.
Yeah. And I think just as far as long term, just like realizing that things are going to come up. You're going to have situations. You're going to have hurdles, and just being able to have the mindset that we're going to weather the storm. Because like
together.
together. Like people just want that that cakewalk. They want just the
Mm-hmm.
ice cream and strawberries, but you got to be able to make it through the difficult times.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can make it through the difficult times, that's what's going to make your marriage. If the difficult times come and you crack under pressure, more than likely, you won't last. I mean, you can bounce back or whatever. Anything's possible with God, but realizing that there are going to be challenges and fighting together through those challenges. I mean, because we've had, like, you can name it, like, we've had it, challenges. And with the grace of God, we've been able to make it through those challenges.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Well, I'm glad you made it because you wouldn't be here tonight. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's talk about some healthy marital practices, right? How do you guys individually define quality time, and how do you work to achieve that in this busy life?
So the lifestyle, with the ministry and just with just everything is like super busy, and I think that us finding time to be intentional, to be there for one another is very important. So that's something that I would stress to someone else in a marriage, being intentional about your personal time with one another.
Okay.
I'd say keeping it simple. Like we're very simplistic. So like we like sitting in the car. We could just sit in the car and talk hours and hours. That's our date night.
Literally.
It don't have to be at a fancy 5-star restaurant. We could be sitting in the car talking for hours. And people that know us, they know that's how we get down.
Yeah.
But that works for us. So like it just taking time to just make time, and it doesn't have to be a big thing. Like I think when we make it a big thing or think it has to be some big planned out thing, just kind of get in where you fit in,
Yeah, because you end up overcomplicating it.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Then I know there's times when me and my wife, we're together a lot, but it's not quality time because we're busy.
Right.
We're not really experiencing one another. We try to like set time aside and do small things, watch a movie or whatnot. But I think it's important for couples to understand, like, there's a difference. Y'all could be together every day working.
Right.
Yeah, and you're like, man, I've been here all day. I haven't really feel like I haven't talked to you because y'all haven't done anything other than like the ministry and other things. So let's talk about the importance of understanding one another, right? So you hear this all the time, like, what is your love language? My love language is this. Your love language is that. Could you explain what a love language is, and then how did you guys figure out what your own love language is, and then how that fit the other person?
Go ahead.
I mean, I guess to just give a simple definition, a love language is something that your spouse desires that will make them, happy or feel loved or whatever. That's what it is. And I think to establish that, it comes through spending time, through being intentional about getting to know that person. And when you see things, don't just brush them off like, oh, that affected her in a certain way.
Yeah.
That's one of her things. Or, just being intentional about what you see and seize in the moment when you see things come up. So like let's say for instance, if I just came home, and so I just put it like this. So I know when she like is a certain way, she just needs a hug.
Got you.
I know that.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that over time. I know that from observing. You have to take the time to observe your spouse as well. But I know, like, when she's a certain way, she just needs a hug, and she's good. So, I mean, you got to take time. You got to take time and try to, I wouldn't say figure out your spouse, but be intentional about seeing what their love language is. Because they don't have to always tell you. Every love language, I don't think, is always expressed.
Yeah.
But certain things you can see through experience or what they reaction or what they show you. Yeah.
So have you ever got his love language wrong, Kheayla, when you were trying to figure it out?
Gotten it wrong? I wouldn't say I've gotten it wrong, but correct me.
I mean, and I'm not trying to toot her home, but I think she's always been spot on. I don't think.
Got you.
And if it was a case where she did, it was like probably one time.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest. Like, I think she's done better than I have in that department. So I mean, for me, she's always gotten it right. for the most part.
And
Okay.
it's easy because it brings me joy. I think, and that goes back
That's
to the
good. Yeah,
very
that's good.
beginning.
Mm-hmm.
The very beginning when we first came on, we were talking about um, building the marriage upon like that strong foundation of friendship. So it makes me happy to serve him, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me happy to do things for him or just whatever the case may be. So
Okay.
that I mean, it brings me joy. So it makes it easy.
Okay. So conflict resolution, right? Everything that we've been talking about has kind of led to that, right? Um, so what strategies do you guys use to healthy, in a healthy way to resolve conflict? So I know we got the communication established,
hmm
but how does one like give the practical advice?
I would say addressing things as they come up, not waiting. Again, everybody needs a timeout sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
but not letting things linger because when you let things linger, things fester. So my advice would to be attack whatever head on.
Okay. And Corey, how do we do that and maintain level of respect for one another through conflict resolution?
By with whatever you're dealing with, um, respecting the other party. Because I think sometimes when we try to navigate through conflict resolution, we only want to see our part.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if we respect the other partner and what their feeling is regarding that, then I think we can do that. And also, too, I don't think our timeout should become time off. So the timeout needs to be exactly what it is, not time off. If I'm taking the time out, that's to regroup, that's to get it together, that's to refocus, and then maybe we can have a conversation. That time out is not time off. That mean I'm going out with the fellas. That doesn't mean I'm connecting with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean I'm reaching to an outside source. Taking that time to regroup, and then maybe we can discuss it. So
That's an important point, and I want you guys to elaborate on that. So, time off versus time.
hmm
How did you say
Time
time
out.
out versus time
time off?
off.
Because I think just how you get in the habit of okay, we meet each other now, get in the habit of showing our love language, get in the habit of communicating. You could get in the habit of trying to replace your spouse with something temporary because you're in your feeling.
hmm
hmm
So can you elaborate on how dangerous that is?
I mean, that's just like giving the devil a key to your house.
hmm
If I have an issue with Kheayla, I need to deal with that. I need to address that rather than searching for an outside source. Because whatever it is, when you search
Mm-hmm.
for an outside source, like I said, you're just giving the devil the key to your house. Come on
hmm
in, have your way,
Yeah.
have a seat, make yourself comfortable in this relationship. But you can't search for something outside of the marriage
Yeah.
if you're trying to fix. Like if I'm trying to fix something and I have all the tools there, why am I going elsewhere to try to find
Yep.
tools when I have the tools there, when I know it works? So I think that's very dangerous because you're setting yourself up for a failed marriage. You know, if you operating that way.
Yeah. So to go another level deeper, Keela, if you could give, because I always call those vices.
hmm
So whether it's, I go drinking, I watch TV.
hmm
Like I said, it's a difference between, like you said, stepping out, but I think it's very important because I've seen people do this, over time, and then they develop that habit. Now they're connected to something else.
hmm
So could you give just like a couple of examples that you may have saw, like where people kind of turn to different vices?
Um, I have seen that. A main, and this is just my opinion. Um, Something that could be very dangerous to a marriage is um, speaking about your spouse to an outside source, because then that becomes messy, and you
Mm,
paint a picture of your spouse, and you allow opinions, you allow thoughts, you allow all of these outside things to come into your home, so to speak. So that's a big no-no for me. I'm not saying be like this ultra private person, but I'm saying that I've seen marriages where they are like discussing things that they shouldn't be discussing with other people.
Mm-hmm. Then you're inviting people in.
You're
Yeah.
inviting people in. You're inviting opinions because some people take the opinions of others. Some non-married folk try to give married folk advice, and how can you do that if you're not even married yourself? So you
Mm-hmm.
just have to be careful who you let into your personal space.
Yeah, I think that's a crucial point to me because not everyone means well.
That's right.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And I think just like we talked about earlier, like someone said, "Hey, I want to get married," but now you're getting advice from people who have failed marriage.
Mhm.
They're gonna have a different outlook.
And I would say this, if I
Mhm.
can, just keep people out of your marriage.
Yep.
I'm just saying, keep people out of your marriage unless it's someone that you feel like God has led you to,
Mm-hmm.
that will give you godly advice, that will pray for you, that will counsel you. Yeah, keep people out because that's very dangerous. And a lot of marriages, I wouldn't say they fail because of that,
Mm-hmm.
but that's one of the building blocks to a failed marriage is when you let people in. I don't care how close you are with your homies or with your girlfriend or whatever. That's your marriage. That God put you and that person together. So y'all need to figure a way to work it out. Like I said, unless it's someone that you trust from a place of spiritual guidance.
Yeah.
And even with that, ultimately, you got to go to God.
Mhm.
God is the one that put the union together. So ultimately, you got to go to him, even if that's the case. But keep people out of your marriage. I can't stress that enough. Keep people out.
I mean, I think that's important because I've seen, heard, and you can get to the point where you're giving somebody a loaded gun,
That's it.
There you
That's
go.
it.
and now, like Kheayla said, you've painted this image of your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're in something real. You're going to this person to get advice, and they're going to give you bad advice because you pretty much painted your spouse as a monster.
Mm-hmm.
And now you come back with that same energy, and it's like, oh, no need fighting for this. You know what I mean? So I think it's very important because everyone wants to vent. You got to be careful who you're venting to,
Absolutely.
right? So let's talk about what I want to get to, because if everyone that's watching this, as you can see, Jesus is at the center of your marriage, right? Obviously, right? So the role of faith, and how has the role of faith impacted your marriage?
I'll say for me, Kheayla brought it up earlier. She talked about how the marriage should, or it may have been you, the marriage should image the church and Jesus. So for me, knowing that the Bible says that you should love your wife like Christ loves the church, we don't always get it right, but that should be your driving force or your motivation behind what you do in your marriage. So for me, that's what it is. Knowing that he said, love your wife as I have loved the church, and knowing, and I do this with people as well, but especially in marriage, like realizing, because we live in a counsel culture. Like we quick to counsel people.
Mm-hmm.
You're done, but realizing what God puts up with us,
Mm-hmm.
the things that he puts up as it pertains to us, we can't be so quick to ask people, give them the axe. We can't be so quick to do that. So for me in a marriage, realizing that I have to love my wife like Jesus loves the church, for me, that's what keeps me on that focused path as far as the marriage is concerned.
Okay. What about you, Kheayla?
I guess what keeps me on the focus path is something that I brought up earlier about just praying and asking God to show me how to be a better spouse. Because even though we've been together, as long as we've been together, there's always room for growth. So I'm constantly asking God to show me how I can be a better spouse, how I can be a better wife. So, with that being said, I have to trust that His way is the right way.
Mm-hmm. So what steps did you guys take? Because I remember you said you grew up in church.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't.
Right.
right? So were you there when you guys met? Were you in church?
No,
Okay. So
that's a whole.
It's a whole nother
Whole
subject.
different story.
Yeah.
so for a couple that's kind of like, I wouldn't say completely unevenly yoked, but one's trying to come in, one's trying to pull each other. Like what advice would you give to how can you start the journey to getting Jesus at the center?
So I will say that Corey allowing God to work through him drew me closer to Christ. We butt heads. I was very vocal about what I wasn't going to do and what I didn't believe in. I was very vocal, and he always exemplified patience. He never tried to like strong arm me into being a certain type of way. He sowed the seeds, very respectful, and I think I was more receiving because he was patient and, not using God to bash me over the head.
Mm-hmm.
So um, that helped with the journey. Just a lot of patience. Even if he was frustrated, I didn't know. Just so his patience and understanding and him allowing God to work through him drew me closer.
Gotcha. Okay. So just being that strong example.
Yeah, I mean, without being extra, without being super like godly, without like she said, beating her over the head with the Bible, I would just present certain things to her, and also I would pray that God will reveal whatever it is to her. Because we could talk about that journey, but she was in a certain place where she was like, "I'm done," because of what she had experienced through said Christians, but just by planting those seeds, being patient, praying to God that He will reveal it to her. I mean, it's the thing is like we leave God out of the equation too much because us communicating with Him and us praying with Him can do things that we can't do.
Mhm.
So, like I said, I sow those seeds, leave it there, pray to God that He will reveal it to her, and He's done it every time. I don't need to, because the people don't need to be beat.
Yeah.
People don't need to be beat over the head with the Bible. The way that we draw individuals to Christ is through our lifestyle.
Mhm.
That's what speaks volume more than anything. I could know the Bible back and front, but if I don't apply that to my life, if I am not an example through my lifestyle, my actions and behaviors, then I'm in essence working against, God.
Yeah. Okay. So prayer is very powerful. Right?
Absolutely.
And I think even more powerful in a marriage, right?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So could you give an example of a situation where prayer really changed y'all marriage for the better? Where you have this thing and you're trying to fix and you're like, you know what? Let me take my hands off of it.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over, but you have to make prayer your go-to. That's what I have to do in order to make this thing work. And when I say make it your go-to, just about everything. Lord, help me to see how I could be better. How could I have handled this situation? Um, if there's something that Corey doesn't understand about me, Lord, please reveal certain things to him. Um, just praying about everything. Prayer works. And I think sometimes in marriage, people forget that. People forget how powerful prayer actually is.
I think for me, it was during those rough moments because that's all I could rely on is God. I could do nothing to change her because she was done. All I could do is rely on God and just pray again that He would help me to be better and that He would touch her heart. So just realizing that, I mean, prayer it is what it is. That's the glue. That's the cure. That's what's gonna work. So for me, it was during those tough times. That's the
Okay.
time where I had to like put that into practice.
Gotcha. And then, like you said, the pleasing one another. Now you're praying for one another,
Absolutely.
even when they don't ask for it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So when it comes to faith, applying it to the fact of having a community of faith. I mean, you got friends that are believers, you got family that are believers. How important is that for a marriage to be surrounded with that, or having to go to people that are also believers?
I think it's key because we talked about it, briefly as it pertains to like keeping people out, but people that you do let in, they have to be people of faith. They have to be people that mean you well, people that you trust, people that you know that have shown you that example. Like that's very important because if you let the wrong people in, um, then it's detrimental. But having the right people can be so helpful to your marriage. So like I say finding the right people, and making sure that God is leading you to those people. But having that community of faith is so important for a marriage.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's what has to be the fuel.
Yeah.
That has to be what's feeding the marriage. Yeah.
And Kheayla, does it hold you accountable, do you think? Being connected to some believers?
It
Does it hold
does.
you
It
accountable?
does. And also it's healthy to be connected with believers, other like-minded people, because you water one another. Like everyone is bringing something to the table. This couple may have advice or perspective that we've never thought about it that way before, and vice versa. So it's important to have, strongly rooted people in your corner.
Okay. So as far as the legacy of faith, I know, you guys have children, right? So how important is it to show them their faith and to instill the importance of faith into them? And what lessons about spirituality and relationships hope to pass on?
I would say it's very important to share that faith, but I think it's also important in how we do it. Again, you don't want to be the type of person that kind of forces the Bible down someone's throat. But if you can show them through your actions,
There you go.
show them through your lifestyle, I think they will gravitate to it because we've kind of experienced that through people that we don't really have to talk about the Bible. They see how we get down, and so I think that part is important. And as far as establishing the legacy, just enabling them to see like Christ in action in a real way. Because we live in a society where people, they're all about titles. They're all about what school they went to as far as theology. They're all about this self or man-made stuff. But I think as far as leaving a legacy, you need to show them what it is through your actions to be a follower of Christ. I think that's something important to leave. But it's not so, now we know that the word is the foundation to everything. We know that. But it's not so much about what you read to them in the word or talk about in the word. It's what you show them through the word. So I think leaving that legacy or that foundation is through what you show them as far as your relationship with Christ.
Gotcha. What about you, Kheayla?
I was, just to piggyback off of what he said, just leading by example. That's the main
Leading
thing.
by example? Okay. So when we talk about Corry and Kheayla, right? I'm about to sing the little Corry and Kheayla sitting in the tree. What is your vision for the future of your marriage? 'Cause I think it's very important for people to be goal driven, right? And I think there's nothing wrong with like want to have nice things, but I think if you don't have a vision for anything, then you tend to die in that spot because you're not growing. It's nothing to work towards. So what are some of your goals for marriage, or what are some of the things you like to accomplish, travel, thing like that? Start with you, Kheayla.
Don't start with me. No one's ever asked me that
Is
question
anything in
before.
your heart?
Just to continue to grow in Christ, just to continue to learn how to grow and be a better spouse. And again, I'll say it, there's always room for growth. and to be able to minister to others, to other couples going through, or to minister to people that are thinking about getting married, or people that have been divorced. So I guess one of my main goals is just to continue to grow in Christ and to continue to grow our ministry.
Okay. What about you, Corey? What
Yeah,
is
I would
what
say
is that
that
vision?
I would say the same thing, but I would also add to to continue to do ministry, to kind of expand that as far as like, being able to reach people, as far as being able to just do ministry together. If
Hmm.
that, I mean, it might be kind of vague, but just doing ministry together, and just seeing how God is going to, like, what He's going to do with that. But like Kheayla said, also just being able to help, couples who are
Hmm.
married. Um, Also, in like, like, as far as like the vision for starting Fresh Ministries, about getting people back to a starting point where
Hmm.
who have been done wrong.
Hmm.
And I'm putting up the quotes by the church, because I don't feel like the church hurt anyone. It's
Hmm.
individuals
Yeah.
who were not living to according to God's word, but people who have been church hurt, people who have learned the wrong way, because there's a lot of false teaching out there as
Hmm.
well. And then just trying to reach people who are different,
Hmm.
because I think we we preach to people enough who are in the building,
Yeah.
but trying to reach people who are different, who
Hmm.
are maybe don't have a relationship with Christ, maybe searching for Christ, or just maybe look different. You know, I wouldn't say like I was like a street dude, but I'm from the street.
Hmm.
So like, and being able to reach those people as well, reaching the unreached, reaching the people that look different. So doing that together is what kind of what I want to see. You
Okay.
know,
Big vision. So if you all went on The Price is Right, you won, married couple, no kids, you have no ministry, like you're off working, you're on vacation, where would you want to go? Money's not an issue.
I mean, I think she would probably say the same. Well, I know where she want to
Yeah.
go. She want to go to Hawaii.
Okay.
But for
Okay.
me, just anywhere calm, and I like to be by the water.
Hmm.
So somewhere where there's water. But I mean, again, we very simple, so it don't take a whole lot. But
Yeah.
I think for me, on her, I think I can answer that for her.
But that's good. That's good. I've always had a vision. I went to Italy for an exchange program when I was in Dunbar in 8th grade. I
Wow.
always wanted to take my wife over there because
Wow.
it looks different, and you're treated different. But I think it's for like couples like that. Florence, Venice, it's just a whole different vibe.
Okay.
Especially to get away, but really get away, go on the other side. So,
Hmm.
I pray that you guys will get that. And the reason I said it because you never know who's watching. You know, Reverend Jones from Appomattox, he had said one thing I'll never forget. He said, "There's someone watching you that can do more for you than you can do for
Wow.
yourself."
Wow.
Until we put it out there,
Yeah.
who
Well,
knows?
y'all heard it here.
Yeah. So I definitely want to get you guys back for part two. I don't want to hold you because I can talk all night. You call my wife and tell you. But favorite date night spot. If you had to pick a spot, what is y'all's favorite date? It might be different spots for each of you guys. But what is your favorite date night?
Honestly, again, we are so simple.
Mhm.
My favorite date night is a couple of things. He told you, like, we sit in the car sometimes, we talk for hours. I mean,
Mhm.
hours. And just a quiet dinner at home, movie at home. I'm a homebody.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah, and I say the same thing for
Same
me. Yeah,
thing.
same for me.
Okay. Yeah. So at this point of the show, I always like to try to motivate and inspire, especially for those that may be going through, maybe thinking about taking their own life, or they just think, you know, they can't go forward in life. So if you could look to your camera and just give them a reason on why they should go forward.
I would say the first and foremost, what you going through, your feelings are valid, but I would say recognize that you have value. Um, God created you, so you have value. Even though what you're going through is difficult, nothing that you are going through is worth taking your life over. And if I could give you some tough love, I would say this: because you're still here, because you're still surviving, because you're still kicking, because you haven't done the unthinkable, it's not that bad. God still has you here for a purpose. He still has you here for a reason. And God has work for you to do. And remember, you have value, and nothing that you go through is worth ending it all over.
I would just like to say, keep your head up. I also would like to let you know that you are not alone. Um, Whatever you're going through is temporary. It won't last forever. And I would just say not to suffer in silence. Please find someone that you trust, that you connect with, to get advice, to get counseling, to get help. Just don't hold in whatever it is that you're going through, because sometimes that could make things worse. The enemy likes to isolate us. So please do not suffer in silence. You're not a failure. Um, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys. On behalf of me, I am TeflonJohn Brand. We appreciate you guys coming through, blessing us,
Absolutely.
being vulnerable, being transparent with your, with your vision of marriage and with your story. And and as I say, guys, marriage is a beautiful thing. So don't be afraid. But it's a trust walk. Sometimes you're walking blind in it. It's not perfect. You may try to do what your grandparents did. You may try to do with what your parents did, but it may not work for you. So it's like the law of individual difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to figure out what works for your union. And like Kheayla and Corry said, you got to keep Jesus at the center. You got to keep God in it and be faithful, because there's going to come times where you can't fix it, right? It's like you have that car, you can't fix it. Sometimes you got to take it back to the dealer, the manufacturer. And sometimes you got to go to God, because he made you to you in his uniquely ways. And that brings you two together as one. So that's the episode. They already said they'll come back to do a part 2. I'm going to hold them to it. So as I always say, one love, but it's your choice to be blessed. Hey, what's up? It's your boy TeflonJohn, and I would like to personally thank you for listening to this episode of the Art of Reinvention podcast show. Follow us on social media on TikTok at the Reinvention Podcast, YouTube at the Art of Reinvention Talk Show, and Instagram at the Art of Reinvention Podcast. And you can hit us up at www.teflonjohn.com. That's John spelled John for all motivational content in Teflon Radio. And again, as I always say, one love, but it's your choice to be blessed.